Here. Hi, everybody. This is Tim Johnson. I'm in the neighborhood. Hi, Stacy.
Good morning, Tim.
How you doing this morning?
It's a beautiful Friday.
It is.
Right before a long weekend. I'm so excited.
Yay.
I just put you in charge of In the Neighborhood on Facebook. So let's talk about that real quick. If you, of course, go and look at PeoriaLife.com and like our page and go to on Facebook In the Neighborhood specifically, and I'm going to have her post things about getting involved with Peoria. So make sure that you get on there and follow and all of that, and we'll keep doing our post directly to it. But I'm giving it to Stacy so she can handle that. And be
that's
good
what
at
I need is something else to do, right, Pam?
Yeah, right.
You're good at multitasking.
So who do we have with us today?
I brought my friend Pam Perrilles with Casa here today.
Hi, Pam. Welcome.
Good morning.
What is Casa?
Court-appointed special advocate.
Okay, what's that mean?
Well, what that means is that we recruit, train, and supervise community volunteers to be the voice of children going through the abuse and neglect court.
Okay, so you're an advocate.
Absolutely, yes. Advocating for the best interest of their future.
We had you on, what, 15 or 5 years ago? 15 years ago.
Well, yeah.
No, we
Seems that long ago, Tim.
Yeah, it does.
So you were actually a CASA advocate at one point, right?
Court-appointed special advocate for children.
Yes.
Pam got me hooked in there, and I got to explore what the children go through in the courts, and heartbreaking, but at the same time, getting to meet these children was so eye-opening and so amazing. And being exposed to how it works with the courts. And I've never been a part of any of that before in my life, so I had no clue. But CASA itself has been around for how long?
So CASA is a national program, and it started over 3 decades ago with a judge who, was really wondering if he had made the right decision about children's futures. He didn't feel like he had enough information. So he called the community brown bag luncheon to kind of brainstorm and help him come up with some ideas of getting more information. So they came up with the concept of using everyday citizens to do a private investigation for him, to kind of be his eyes and ears and boots out in the field. So these volunteers, of course, have to be trained. They go through a 30-hour curriculum written by National CASA. Once they successfully pass those phases of our onboarding and pre-training service, then they're sworn in as an officer of the court by the judge. So it's a big deal. It's not one of those volunteer opportunities where you're done in a day. It is a big commitment. We do ask volunteers to, commit 2 years at least to the case, and that it's usually about anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month commitment. So it's very doable. But as Stacy said, it's so much more different than other volunteer opportunities because it is, it can be very painful and emotional, and sometimes you get very frustrated because you feel you're not, maybe being as effective, or things aren't moving as quickly as what you thought they would. But it just turns out to be amazing how much impact and how rewarding it is, for volunteers to be able to be a part of this. It has been very successful over the last 30-some years. After Judge Soupcup started this, there began some federal funding to help, bring it across the nation. So right now there are over 950 CASA programs throughout the United States. And in Illinois, there are 34 counties out of 102 counties that are being served through 31 programs. So while there's still a big gap of kids that need volunteers across the state. So in Peoria, we've been here for now 11 years. So we're still one of the new kids on the block when you look at statewide, which, we're hoping that's going to change in the next couple years. So just to kind of serve more kids. And when you look right here in Peoria, we have currently 872 pending abuse and neglect cases. So that's a lot of kids in our backyard.
Is that just Peoria County?
Just Peoria.
Wow. But are you guys out in Tazewell and Woodford yet?
Not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. We, our long-term goal would be to become a full circuit Casa,
Sure.
but, you have to, it's a slow process because we still have a lot of kids in Peoria that need an
Absolutely.
advocate. So we're up to about 35% of those kids. So each year we keep growing. The last 4 or 5 years we've been growing pretty good, 20 to 30% of increased number of kids being served.
Yeah.
So we have an amazing board, and there's great synergy with that. So but we need more volunteers. We want to keep growing. So
How many do you guys have now?
we've been serving over 300 kids right now. So
Wow.
yeah.
With how many volunteers?
Last year we served 303 children, which ended in June, our fiscal year, and we had 137 volunteers, active
Wow.
volunteers.
That's
Now,
amazing.
we have some volunteers waiting for cases. So right now, I think we've got about 150. We've had some new volunteers get sworn in, so we're ready to serve more kids. We are, in fact, hopefully today I'll get it posted, but another advocate supervisor. So
Awesome.
I know, growing again.
Because then that means you can add more volunteers.
30 more volunteers
Okay.
to serve 60 to 75 more children.
Wow.
So do you have to know the law to be a CASA advocate?
You do not have to be an attorney. So we include that in our training. We have volunteers from all walks of life, and we don't expect them to be experts in the law or in social services. The biggest quality that I look for, the most important quality, is commitment. We want someone who is committed to those children, to that case till it closes, because we want to be that one consistent voice. We help you with whatever you need to know. During our training process, we bring in the judge and attorneys, and they talk about that law piece. And it's explained, the process of the different time frames for the different hearings that come up. And, all we have to do is go out, find the facts, put them in a report, and submit it to the court and go to court on behalf of the child. So as long as our, volunteers have to remember to be fact-based. You have to let go of all of your life experiences and biases, to be able to have credibility and to really effectively represent that child's voice in the courtroom. So it's more about the facts. And, we don't try to do the judge's job. We don't try to do the attorney's job. We just do our job and focus on providing those facts so that they can better do their job.
It's really, it's a different perspective, right? And I like the terminology you used of private investigator. You are a little bit. You're diving in, and you're, again, going back to the facts, though. That's really what an investigator does, right? They're going to go in, they're going to observe, and they're going to say, okay, the house was clean, and the dishes were done. It was a safe place for those children to be, right? Because where do children want to be? They want to be with their parents. They want to be with their real mom and dad. Because
no matter what,
when kids are adopted, they end up going and seeking their real parents. And I can't claim to understand because I'm not in that situation, but they also want to be with their siblings, because that's the other thing that people don't think about. When they're taken away, they're also taken away from their siblings, which is then you feel alone. And as a child, I just can't even imagine being torn out of my home. So sometimes when these kids come together with their mom or dad, they're getting sibling time too, and instead of us sometimes as adults and outsiders, we focus on, I can give them way more. That's not what kids care about.
Right.
Kids care about food and shelter and love. Mm-hmm. And they don't even really care about shelter. If you think about it, a child's going to stick by their parents' side even when they don't have anything, because that's the love of a parent and a child.
Yeah, and that goes back to that minimum parenting standards, which is part of the law that you have to follow. And I remember when we swore in our very first class of volunteers, and Judge DeBicki was explaining to volunteers about the minimum sufficient level of care. And he said, a lot of people would probably think that Bill Gates could better provide for my children.
Right.
But it's not about that. It's not about all that you can give them and all the opportunities. It's really about, those supporting those parents, if they're able, if they do their service plans, if they can provide a safe home, then it's really getting them to where they can do that so that kids can go home and be reunited. And that's the first goal of the state statute is reunification. So if that can happen, that's what needs to happen, because during the process, if parents are successful about, doing all their service plans for substance abuse or help with poverty or domestic violence, then they can help break those cycles for their children. And we all benefit from that because, as a society, if we help them move out of that poverty level or break those cycles of abuse, it breaks that cycle for those children, in generations to come. So that's the ultimate goal.
So if somebody's interested in volunteering, website, how do they get involved?
Absolutely. They can go to our website. They can just call our office at 669-2939. We'd be happy to take care of them. We do have a training coming up in October.
Oh.
So we're recruiting right now for that class. It's going to start, I think, October 15th. We do have an informational meeting scheduled at 2:25 on September 26th.
Okay.
So if people want to find out a little bit about it, they can come at 5:30 for an hour, and staff and volunteers will be there to kind of answer any questions that they may have about, this unique opportunity. But we would love to have a really nice class in October. So,
yeah, because the requirements really, like you said, you don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to be a social worker. You don't have to have any of that behind you. And it's just really the time and dedication, because you are going to be meeting with children. You are going to be meeting with parents. You are going to be traveling. And then the other thing, too, is, the taking notes on what's going on around you. So being able to observe without the emotions and with the facts and writing those down and then reporting those back. But you don't have to have a master's education or a bachelor's even. So male, female, all ages, I'm sure
Absolutely.
You would benefit from.
You have to be 21 is one of the requirements.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we have young adults. We have retired folks. I think we have some volunteers who are in their 80s. So it's just amazing. And the thing of it is, it might seem intimidating. Oh my gosh, I got to go out and do that investigation. I got to write this. I don't know how to do that. We train you, but also have an amazing staff who is going to walk each volunteer through the process. They go with the volunteers on their first visits. They're always with them in court. They're used to doing the job, so they're there to help guide volunteers. Like I said, each advocate supervisor will have around 30 volunteers to manage with 60 to 75 children. But that's their focus, and that's their job is to make sure that our volunteers are successful, that they are providing quality advocacy for these children, and they've got a little bit more knowledge about directing the volunteer. Oh, you might want to try this month, in your strategy for your case. So. We try to make it as easy as possible. We have templates that, we have forms for you when you go out to do your interviews with children or families, and you fill in the blanks and you transfer that stuff into your report. So, it really isn't that difficult.
No, it's not difficult. It's just time.
It is time.
But that's what I think people are always looking for, opportunities to get involved, and another great way to help children to make a difference in their life and to be their voice, because that's really what Casa is about. Is the kids don't get asked, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Who's asking the kids?
Right.
That's really what Casa comes in to do, is to say, if they're able to speak. Obviously, we deal with children that aren't able to speak, as I had a little one, but if they can speak.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful thing, because, and that's one of the differences about our report versus other reports, is we have a section that's called the child's wishes. And that is the place where volunteers every month are asking their children, what would you like me to share with the judge? And that's their opportunity to have some voice in it and understanding. Kids need to be a part of that process. People are making decisions about their life. And especially as our kids are teenagers, they want to know a little bit more about, what's going on. So I remember we had a 7-year-old who said, well, I want to talk to the judge. And and so within 30 days, when we went to court, the judge was like, well, where's this child? And the child wasn't there. So within 30 days, that child had an opportunity to come back and meet with the judge in the judge's chambers and talk about things. So what volunteers put in reports are very powerful. They do have an impact, and it could be, even if you don't think it means anything, like if they say, well, I want to live on the moon. You know what? You still write that in the report because that's who that child is. And, and that gives a little bit of personality to that child that's on paper that people in the courtroom don't get to see. It is a powerful thing. I know we had another case where one child just cried out all the time to his volunteer about, wanting to go home. And parents were not engaged, were not doing their services. But every time that report came and that child, it was just so moving, how heartbroken he was and how important that was to him that, that changed that mom's focus. Because it really got to her reading that in that report. Because parents get a copy of our reports, and reading that, how that impacted her child, made a difference. She turned everything around, and those children ended up going home. Yeah. But it was because she read that over, several times over. That really got to her. So they are very powerful.
Well, we're running short on time today. We could probably talk for another half hour or so, but give us again the event date and the website for people to go to.
To volunteer. Okay, so it's casapeoria.org.
Okay.
And our phone number is 669-2939. Our informational meeting is 2:25 on September 26th. And the training will start on October 15th. We can give you more details about that. It is... we do 30 hours in about a week and a half, so it's 2 full Saturdays and 5 evenings from 5:30 to 8:30. But we get good feedback about when we do our evaluations. People like it close together. They get it done and over with. And the group really always they kind of bond too in the process because you learn from each other. We bring in different people and different speakers to help do the training. And then if being a volunteer isn't for you, there's other ways to support our organization. We have a golf event coming up October 4th.
Right.
We have Casablanca Dancing with the Local Stars on November 5th. We have a human foosball event coming up April 8th. And then next year we'll be doing Casa Caballos, which is tailgating at the polo match next summer again. So
cool.
Yeah.
And that's Casa, C-A-S-A, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Pam Perrilles of Casa, you're the executive director. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much.